Hi, everybody. Thomas Miller from the Fun Astrology and Subconscious Mind Mastery podcasts, the YouTube channel, audio distribution, everything. I had somebody tell me, record it once and then distribute it everywhere. Well, that's about what I'm going to do with this, because something happened on the second day of the administration of our new president here in 2025 that brought one of my favorite sayings to mind, and that is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think that there's something subtle within this that's worth noting. Now, just so you know, right off the top, I am politically agnostic. Now, what does that mean? Well, I think if you're spiritually agnostic, you know that there's a God, or you at least acknowledge that there's a God, but you just don't connect with it. You don't connect with the concept of God. So it's like, I'm busy. Or like a doctor I heard one time said, God's too busy for me. He's busy over in the Middle East, and he's got other things to do than worry about my life. Well, that I would say is probably a good definition of an agnostic. Politically, I acknowledge that there is a two-party system, but I don't find it connecting with me in any good kind of way. I don't think it's something that represents me. I find myself an alien in a system. And really, that's a good place to be, because I don't judge things from a political perspective. I think it's one bird, two wings. So I'm able to sit back and watch and observe and to give weight on something that's going to affect me directly or not, and then only give weight or concern to those things that do affect me directly. So what happened on the second evening of the new administration is a press conference was held, and the participants were, in order from left to right next to the president, Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank, which is an investment firm, Larry Ellison, which is one of Elon Musk's investors, the founder of Oracle, and Sam Altman of OpenAI, which we all know from ChatGPT. At the press conference, they announced $500 billion being invested in an AI infrastructure called Stargate. It appears to be mostly private funding with obviously some government support. The idea was to invest heavily in the United States with power projects and various data centers, etc., that they talked about. But the one thing that came right out of the chute from Ellison was that they were going to begin with electronic health records. They're going to be analyzing your health records from a common data pool. Now, can you see where this is going regarding your privacy? How you do anything, or how they do anything, is how they do everything. So what will you have to do? I mean, a big question I'm asking myself from this agnostic perspective, then what am I going to have to do in order to comply with this technology? And they were talking about the golden age has begun. And on the Q&A section, the first thing that Ellison mentioned, who is not a physician, just like Bill Gates is not a physician, was the development of a very specific mRNA-based cancer vaccination. Now, I turned over to Robert Malone. Dr. Robert Malone has been on Twitter a lot since COVID. He was, I don't know the history of this, I don't, but supposedly involved in the research of the initial mRNA technology. And Dr. Malone's quote the next morning after this came out were, he said, these people have no idea how complicated the immune system is, and they have no understanding of the difficulties facing predictive computational immunology, and they have no understanding of cancer immunology. This is marketing, propaganda, and hype. That was his quote from Twitter, or X. So, in my book, How You Do Anything is How You Do Everything, clearly this is an attempt to invade your privacy and your ability to make medical decisions, however you feel about vaccines, for yourself. And that is exactly the structure of Pluto in Aquarius in this modern age. Technology is going to be the battleground, mass control is going to be the game, and there will be resistance. The question is, can we say, don't tell me what to do, and prevail? Now, where this got really interesting is that on this next day, I'm recording this on January 22nd, the next day. And I was finishing an audiobook for Fred Dodson called Secret Societies and Spiritual Warfare. And I couldn't believe it, but the last little section of this book that I had left for this morning to narrate with a fresher voice had this image in it. And I hadn't seen this. This is something that Fred wrote about well into last year. And this is an image of a system exactly like what Ellison was describing. And it's called this intra-WBAN. That is a wireless body area network. And what they're talking about is implanting health devices in the body for blood pressure, EKG, pulse oximetry, EMG, motion sensing, etc. And all of that will be picked up by the personal phone, and that's the intra-WBAN. And then extending that out, it will go to a base station where it goes to the internet, where it will then be picked up by a clinical database and will be able to be read and interpreted by a medical researcher. We already saw where this went with COVID from the monitoring, and it was different in different parts of the world, but there were monitoring situations, scenarios through the phone, both of having COVID, I guess, and also the vaccination records. And here what you can see is exactly the battle that we've been talking about relative to Pluto moving into Aquarius. That we are going to be dealing with technology that is going to further basically, to me, it's an invasion of privacy. Because I don't want all of that. And yet, will society move? And here's, see, the political system and corporations that are now weaved together by the World Economic Forum primarily, that will all of that, because look, I mean, COVID just boom, 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 boom. It was adoption by everybody. It was almost like everybody was already aligned. And I believe they were. That, and Fred has a lot to say about this, but I mean, I have my own thoughts. I was doing a radio show for a healthcare organization when COVID began. So, I mean, I was on the cutting edge of journalistically covering this from a medical perspective. I get it. But it definitely now is going to extend even into AI. And I think everything we saw related to COVID, however you felt about that, is going to be magnified multifold. How you do anything is how you do everything. Now, one of the other things that Fred mentioned in his book, and this is just so wild because when I went to North Carolina in 2021, one of the things that I instantly was feeling the vibration of were conscious communities where like-minded people would get together and in a small enough area that it could be manageable, but a big enough that there could be some scale of mutual support. I was like, wouldn't that be cool? Well, what I didn't know was how cold the winters get in North Carolina, so I don't know that that's the best place, but the summers are magical. But somewhere along the way, there has to be some kind of a place that is weather palatable, not too hot in the summer, not too cold in the winter, hopefully, where things could grow and that communities will be able to thrive in an environment where they can even raise their own food. Because you could see where through this technology, I mean, if this is day 2 of the current president's administration, and he's going to be in for 4 of the 20 years, that gives you 16 more years before Pluto moves out of Aquarius into Pisces, that we are going to be dealing with this constant battle. And they already stepped up to the microphone and said that we are going to throw $500 billion at this. And my argument is, at the same time, we have people in North Carolina, Florida, and now in California who are homeless, where $500 billion invested in those communities would go miles to rebuilding infrastructures and homes and getting those people back on their feet. So what are we most about? Domination of tech control or humanitarian aid for people who really need it? So when I saw this, I just thought, okay, you better watch out, because how you do anything is truly how you do everything. And it's obvious that this direction is going to be toward building infrastructures for the purpose of control. And if you don't think that labeling it as, oh, we're going to make healthcare, we're going to be able to go after all the diseases in the world, how are they going to get compliance for that? I mean, just play it out in your mind and be a little bit more skeptical so that you can watch from that observer perspective and not be saying, oh, it's all going to be just fine. Watch the agenda. Just see how it unfolds. We'll check back in a couple of years and see how off this really is. Meanwhile, what do we do? How do we apply this? What's in it for us? Is this one of those threats that is big enough that we should take action? Probably, honestly, probably. It's made me think some things over. What's the timeline of it? Years, and there will be resistance points along the way, but AI is moving awfully fast. Look where it is today versus where it was just 1 year ago in January of 2024. Light years ahead of where it was then. And it's going to be so much more a year from now. So they're really trying to play catch up to something, a train that has left the station in full blast. This is where intuition comes to play, and where we have to get with ourselves in a quiet state and see what's there for us individually. This isn't something that I would follow somebody on. This is a decision that only you can make. Your family, the discussion with your spouse, considering your children, the whole package. How am I going to interface with this? Hey, some people might say, hook me up. I'd love all of that stuff, and I'd love to be a pioneer with this. This sounds amazing. Great. I hope that you'll cover for me because I don't want to be a part of it. And I know Fred doesn't. So we need two of you to stand up to offset the two of us. No, it's just, the point is that we're all going to have to make our decisions within this. I just wanted to point out that right here off the bat, day one, really, full day number one, this is how the day wrapped up with this announcement. So I think we're going to see more movement toward that. And when we combine that with astrology, which we've been looking at for a long, long time now, knowing that Pluto was going to enter Aquarius, and when you look at the characteristics of it, this is not the Pluto that was in Aquarius in the 1770s. That was a different world, different battles, different issues. What we're dealing with now is something that is driven by technology. So we all have to figure out how we're going to adapt when technology starts to close in on our personal freedoms more. Because I think there's going to be a lot more than just this AI project, but AI is going to touch literally every area of our lives. And the argument on the other side is, well, it's something that's going to be here, and that's true, and we might as well be on the forefront of it, and that's what they're trying to position. Every one of those people is a billionaire, to my knowledge. I know 3 of them are. I'm not sure about Sam Altman, but the other 3 are. And that's who's ruling the world right now. It's who's got the biggest platform. Don't fear. Don't go to fear. Intuition will guide us through. And remember, there's a whole other side of the battle. Don't tell me what to do is just as strong as the desire to control. And I've seen this coming. It was like it's going to be these equal opposite characteristics of don't tell me what to do and the desire to control. So I hope this helps. And lock in that little saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. And observe that in the world around you and prove me wrong with that. I'll wait. Thank you guys so much for letting me just put this out, because I think it's very important. And part of Fred's book was to wake up. And part of this also is wake up. Look at what's going on around us. Don't have our head in the sand. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Enjoy the journey. It's going to be a ride. Hope you got plenty of popcorn. We'll see you next time.